welcome to my review for Halloween 2. Thanks for your view. Yeah, I've always fancied myself as a bit of a poet, actually. But anyway, on with the review. There will be spoilers today, if that bothers you. So the 2009 sequel to Rob Zombie's original was once again directed by Rob Zombie. That's the first thing to say. So there was a good continuity in terms of the style. All the actors who needed to come back did return. This feels like the most sequel-y of all the Halloween sequels, I think, even more so than the 1981 version of Halloween 2, which, even though it takes place on the same night as Carpenter's original, does have a markedly different tone, I think. Halloween 2 from 2009 does pick up immediately from where the first film left off, but it's not long before we jump ahead 1 or 2 years, depending on which cut of the film you're watching. The version of the film I have is the theatrical version. This is the shorter of the two. I think it's about 105 minutes, whereas the director's cut is about 13 minutes longer. That's a substantial difference. Normally, when there are two different versions of a film to choose from, I will go for the longer one. I hate missing out on stuff. This is an exception for me. And the reason being is that in the director's cut of this, Laurie Strode gets killed, and I hate that. I much prefer the more hopeful ending of the theatrical version where she goes to the psychiatric ward. There's a possibility she might recover and have a happy life. I don't think you're missing out on too much by watching the theatrical version. Most of the extra bits in the director's cut are superficial, enjoyable superficial bits maybe, but still superficial. The ending is the major change. Given the mixed reaction to the first film, I did wonder whether Zombie might steer this one into being a more traditional Halloween film, but no, he just carries on doing exactly what he wants to do, which I think is the right choice. It's not like he was planning to come back for a third go around, so you might as well just do what you want to do and then get out. Although I do say that as somebody who likes his style when it comes to these films. I think the biggest negative about this version of Halloween 2 is also its biggest strength. That's a bit cryptic, so let me explain what I mean. So very early on in the film, there's a scene which is still on the night from the previous film where Laurie gets admitted to hospital and she starts wandering around with a bad leg. And then she realises that Michael has followed her there because she sees the body of a dead nurse. So she flees for the stairs, and this kicks off the most amazing chase sequence. I mean, it's filmed brilliantly. It cuts in all the right places. Laurie has to get past this creepy looking body on the stairs. Then when her and Michael get outside, the way the rain bounces off Michael's mask looks so cool. I just love the whole sequence. But when we get to the end of it, we find out that it was just a dream, and that's why this is both my favourite thing about this film and also my least favourite thing at the same time. I can't believe this amazing chase ends up being just a dream. Now, I'm not saying that I know more about filmmaking than Mr. Zombie, but what I would have done is make this real. And then just as Michael gets to the hut at the back of the car park, police lights would have appeared in the distance, and that's when he jumps into the scrub and we don't see him again for another year or two. If the director's cut had given me that, I might have accepted that as a trade-off for Laurie dying at the end. So what I'm saying is, I would have put up with the sadness of killing Laurie at the end if you could have given me the chance to traumatise her even more at the start by making her hospital scene more real. Anyway, the director's cut does do a couple of things differently when it comes to the hospital chase, one of which I lament is not on my theatrical version, and the other I'm glad isn't on my version. The one bit that I wish I could have had involves Laurie attempting to smash open this thing on the wall which has an axe in it, but she's too weak, so she just ends up patting the glass in a really pathetic way. And when Michael comes down the stairs, he just smashes it in one second and gets the axe out. I think that's quite funny. I wish that bit was on my version. There is a bit that I'm glad is not on my version, though. And so basically, just as Laurie comes out into the car park, she falls into some weird square pit full of cadavers. Now, as horrific as this looks, it looks quite cool, but it just gives away the fact that it's a dream sequence too early in the chase. When I'm rewatching Halloween 2, I like to still pretend it's my first time watching it, and I don't know that it's a dream sequence, so I can enjoy the chase more, if you see what I mean. So that's why I would keep that out. The characterizations in this are just top-notch all across the board, especially with the returning characters. I mean, these are changed people because of their experiences from the first film. I would have said that Annie was a more outgoing person than Laurie first time around, but that's flipped on its head now. So because of the scars on her face, Annie's become almost like a recluse. She doesn't want to go out. Laurie's gone in the other direction. I mean, she was basically just a cute bookworm in the first film, at least to start off with. But now she's this rock chick going out and getting drunk and hanging out with extroverts like Harley. That's her way of coping with the memories from the first film, because human beings do react differently. So I just think it's fascinating how some of these characters have almost changed positions, but they've evolved in believable and satisfying ways. It's really good writing. Loomis feels like a failure because of the fact that he couldn't bring young Michael back from the edge in the first film, and then he had to watch on in horror as adult Michael went on his killing spree. His way of coping is to say, right, nothing I can do about all that now. I might as well at least make a buck off this whole thing and have a comfortable retirement. But you can tell when he's being a dick to his assistant at the start of this film, it's all just a front. You can tell he feels guilty and he doesn't really want to be doing all the TV appearances and stuff. When he gets a chance to throw himself under the bus at the end of the film so Laurie can live, he takes it in a heartbeat. It's almost as if he was hoping for some kind of redemption chance like that, even if it would mean his life being the cost of that. Sheriff Brackett's another one who finds himself in a different position in this film because of what happened the first time around. So now he's taken Laurie under his wing, but it's not easy having two daughters, even if one of them isn't actually a daughter, who are both suffering this trauma. So he has to walk on eggshells around them. And the moment when he finds Annie's dead body is just absolutely heartbreaking. This film just has a way of making you feel sad all the time, much more so than in a normal slasher film. Normally I would be like, oh, well, that was a sad death. Okay, moving on to the next one. But the acting across the board, it has to be said, Scout Taylor Compton, Danielle Harris, Malcom McDowell, and Brad Dourif, those four especially, for those characters that they bring back and what they do with them, is just absolutely terrific. Full admiration. Tyler Mane just completely tears it up again as Michael. I did think this performance was a bit more terrifying the first time around because of the novelty factor, but it's still so much fun watching a guy this size just completely obliterate everybody who comes into his path. That kill of the nurse near the start, it's that that really does it for me, because he's putting so much effort into this kill. He literally has to unmute himself just so he can put extra oomph into all of his slashes. The old Michael would just do what needed to be done and then would move on. But this Michael has to overkill. The old Michael would just kill. That death as well of the guy who gets his face trampled in and you can see his skull all mushed up, that was a good one. But easily the most effective death of all is the one we don't see, the one I've already mentioned of Annie. The scene where she stood in front of a bathroom mirror and she tilts her head and you see that look of recognition on her face that Michael stood right there. It's absolutely heartbreaking. The way that this kill is done makes me so sad. I can't even tell you. It's as if they're killing Danielle Harris herself right in front of me. One of the worst deaths, or one of the least effective ones, is probably Harley in the van, but I did like that character. Probably my favourite of the new characters, even though this film overall is more about the returning ones. What's Harley's costume again? She's a chick pretending to be a dude who wants to be a chick. Was that it? I mean, just the most stupid Halloween costume I've ever heard of in my life, but also quite brilliant at the same time. Going back to Michael, I'm not sure if he's meant to be a walking corpse or still alive in this film, because he is declared dead by the ambulance men at the start. So does he just resurrect himself as a kind of zombie, or was he just flatlined for a while and then he gets jolted awake? Does his mum move the cow onto the road in some kind of ghostly intervention thing, maybe, just to get him going again? I don't know. While we're on the subject, I will concede that this is probably the most cynical way that Rob Zombie has ever brought his wife into a movie. They probably had to sit down for quite some time together to work out how they were going to pull this off this time. But they did find a way. Having said that, I don't mind any of the ghostly apparition, white horse stuff in this film. It even leads to us seeing a couple of quite freaky images. There's a weird pumpkin head thing sat at a dinner table, and we get a shot of Laurie banging against the top of a coffin. If I'd have seen all that stuff when I was a teenager, which is when I started to get into the Halloween films, I probably would have found it quite scary, actually. I've got to mention the music before I wrap up. Anytime you get a musician come director, I think you're going to get a good soundtrack. It's always been the case with Rob Zombie that he finds a number of decent tunes to put into his movies. I like the sad stuff that plays towards the end of this, and also the more kookier songs that play during the Halloween party scene. I would love to go to a party like that. I'd probably look a bit out of place at my age, but I suppose if I was wearing a costume, I wouldn't go as a chick dressed as a dick, dressed whatever that was, but I'd find something, I'm sure. Before we get to the bag of terror and find out what sort of score I'm going to give this film, let me just quickly show you this book I bought late last year. It's called Taking Shape 2, The Lost Halloween Sequels. I think I might have already show and telled this during one of my Halloween rankings videos, but basically this book is all about the Halloween scripts which got written and approved, but for some reason they didn't move ahead with production at the last minute because of one bullshit reason or another. This book covers about 24 or 25 of those instances going way back into the 80s, right up to the present day almost. And as soon as I got this book, let me tell you, I like these Rob Zombie Halloween films that much. I didn't read this book in chronological order. I went straight to the section to find out if there was a film planned for after Rob Zombie's Halloween 2, and there was. There was going to be a third film. A script got written and approved. And reading about it in that book was absolutely fascinating. Laurie in the film would have been sort of half on Michael's side, half not. There would have been some great scenes in a psychiatric hospital. And in the end, Michael would have killed Laurie and carried on his merry way. So there could have even been another film after that, though I don't know how they could really have done a Halloween 4 without Laurie's stroke. That would have been really weird. But certainly, if you've not got that book, I fully encourage you to do so, because it's absolutely fascinating if you're a Halloween fan. Right, let's find out that score then. We have 1, 2, 3, 4 bloody axes out of 5 for Rob Zombie's Halloween 2 from 2009. That is the exact same score that I gave his original film from 2007. So I really, really like both of these films. I'm a huge fan of them, more than most people, I think. There's only the original film by Carpenter, I think, which is better than these two films in the series. I think a lot of people would probably disagree with me, but that's just my opinion. I really do hold these two films in very high respect, and I do rewatch them quite often. So there we go then. My next review in this series, if those axes will stop making noise, will be the 2018 Halloween follow-on from the original. So we're going to be jumping timelines. So I've only got one more to do, and then I'll be up to date in time for Halloween Kills this October, which will be really cool. Right then, I hope you enjoyed that. Subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll see you again next time. Bye-bye.